Hello, everyone.
Hello, can people hear me? Cool.
Yes, the mics work. Fantastic.
Beautiful.
All right, we're going to kick off. We've only got 20 minutes between now and lunch, and we're going to try and entertain you and educate you at the same time. So this is the agenda of what we're going to cover off. We've got introductions. We're going to give you an overview of what we want to cover off in our talk. We're going to talk about the parallels between Dungeons and Dragons and a security crisis response exercise. They're practically the same thing. We're going to give you some key lessons and takeaways that we learned through this exploration, and we're going to give you the opportunity to ask us some questions.
All right, so a bit about myself. Had the wonderful introduction earlier, but I've been in the modern workplace for 3 years, and yeah, playing D&D for 8. Absolutely love it. And over to George.
Hi everyone, I've been working at Microsoft as a cloud solution architect now for 18 months, and prior to that I worked at a managed service provider, and before that I worked at a TAFE, so I've been in technology for a while, just teaching and sharing, and that's all I do every day, so it's a real pleasure to be here to do it in my free time. And something quirky. I used to be a champ too at Rocket League, but don't have time to play anymore, so I'm down to Diamond 3 with the scrubs, so sorry if you're a Diamond 3. Anyway. And this photo was taken at B-Sides Perth this year. We were lucky enough to do this talk there, so if you've seen it there and you're back again, awesome.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, go.
Yep. So a bit of an overview. So who here has played Dungeons & Dragons, just for curiosity's sake? Oh, nice. Quite a few of you. All right, so for those of you that don't know what Dungeons & Dragons is, it's a tabletop role-playing game where you can be who you want and do what you want, essentially. There's limitless possibilities to your game, and there are so many things that you can do. In terms of Dungeons & Dragons game, it's generally set up with the Dungeon Master who controls the game and the player characters who play their own characters. The Dungeon Master's role is to play all of the non-player characters, so for instance, the person at the bar who's serving you, and the player characters in general only have one character to play. Why do you play Dungeons & Dragons? It's fun, it's a great way to talk to people, and it absolutely helps with your creativity skills in the long run. And yeah, that's about it. Over to George.
Who's done a security crisis response exercise or, a tabletop security activity? All right, not many. I can say anything I like, and there's only a few people who disagree with me. That's fantastic. So in case you're not sure what it is, you'll have maybe policies and procedures in your organisation that you would enact in case something goes wrong, like, you lose all of your email or all of your systems become encrypted and, maybe there's a request for ransom. Until, what is it Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until they get punched, right? So you've got your plan, but have you tested it? So a security crisis response exercise gives you an opportunity to test it in the safety of your environment under your conditions rather than that stressful situation like if you get everything taken from you. So you do it to be prepared, and it's a structured activity that you would go through, and that's what we're going to talk about.
Oh, wonderful.
So first of all, we're going to just talk about the parallels between the two activities.
Yep, so in Dungeons & Dragons, we're talking about planning and development. The first part is about planning the adventure broadly. So you want to plan from start to finish what your campaign's going to be like. This is typically done by the Dungeon Master. They will do step-by-step plans for each session, and broadly have a few quests and challenges that they want to create. These quests and challenges are meant to help the players develop skills, learn things about themselves, and realistically form good relationships with other people. Finally, the main part of planning for the players is all about their character creation and their backstories. I find that really fun because you can really knuckle down into the nitty-gritty details of your character, and really develop who you want to be.
So the equivalent for security, you would first of all decide on the, your plan, so you'll decide to do the activity. Security attack is not normally just a single incident. It's like a series of small things, and then like big bang surprise, you've been done. So you need to work out all of these details. So you'll create essentially story arcs through your exercise. For each story arc, you'll have a scenario that would allow your people to work through your processes, and once you've worked out kind of your arcs, more detail inside of it, then you have to actually work out who is going to do it. This is generally done by business on business time when your business is already possibly understaffed and has tight resources. So you can't just pull everyone out. So you need to make sure you get the right people who understand what needs to be done and can be representative of the people that would respond during a security incident. So your participant selection is important, and then you need to brief them on what needs to happen.
All right, the next step is all about conducting the activity. So after you've planned and developed your campaign, what you're going to do as a player is make sure that you have the right equipment and resources. You don't want to go into battle with no sword. You don't want to have to rely on the bare minimum to get by. You really need to make sure you've got the tools you need to succeed. Secondly, there is the exploration, role-playing and combat aspect of the game. This is what makes up the bulk of D&D as a player, and as a DM, the role-playing is their more important role. Thirdly is all about the Dungeon Master's notes and the player action collection. So as a DM, you'll create notes about what your players have done, what they're good at, what they're bad at, and really try to shape your game to suit their strengths or weaknesses depending on what you want to do. Finally, it's all about plot twists and unexpected events. You wouldn't want to play a game that's straightforward, boring, and you're expecting the whole thing. With D&D, you want to make sure there's some excitement to keep people engaged and alert.
Yeah, and it's almost exactly the same. You need to make sure you've got enough resources to conduct the activity. So not specifically the people resources, but maybe the Red Bull and pizza resources. If you're going to do this simulation properly, then it might be an extended period of time, right? So get the support from the business, get a budget so that you can have what you need. It might also be that you're going to simulate it and you need to stand up a whole second environment, right? And that would cost money. After that, you would actually conduct the exercise. So your planning is now going to be implemented. You'll run through the activity. You actually would have like an activity leader, like the GM in a D&D campaign, step through and say, oh, you've now discovered this, or, press the button to start the script, which would get your environment compromised. Lastly, you have a team of doers, but you also have a team of watchers who actually look at the pain points and start observing, writing down, looking for areas of improvement, and looking for the things that would stop you from being able to respond efficiently, right? You've got this learning opportunity. It's all well and good to have fun and, put out a fire without there being a fire, but if you don't learn all of the things from that, then that opportunity for the exercise really is a waste of time. And then lastly, there's injects. So just like Jessie mentioned, if the game was straightforward, it would be boring. You're going to employ people who know their job, right? They're going to be doing the things they should be doing during an incident response. When you have a situation, it might be that they will inject the unexpected. I remember Matt Zorich did a talk on incident response, and he said that something that doesn't always happen but sometimes happen, and it's quite confronting, is they'll receive a text message from the attacker saying, I like your GitHub hoodie, right? Because they're watching through the camera on the device he's sitting at. So, that's not expected in an incident response. That's saying like, hey, we're still here. So an inject is something to really throw a spanner in the works so people take it seriously and respond appropriately.
And then finally, we're talking about wrapping up and the lessons learned. So in D&D, you'll have a debrief at the end of the session where the players can discuss what they did well, what they did badly, what they'd like changed in the future. Secondly, there is the campaign summary and recap. So after the game is complete, there will be a summary of what's happened, who did what, and the overall outcome of the game. Thirdly is adjusting the NPC encounters and story. So if the player characters are doing poorly, you want to tone down the level of attack. If they're doing really well, you don't want the attackers to be overwhelmed. You want them to be at a matched level. Finally, it's all about the continuing campaign and storylines. So frequently, after a campaign has ended, people will play one-shots or a secondary campaign spun off from the previous campaign. This is to tie up any loose ends, but it can also just help for people who want to play that character further and develop their skills even further.
Awesome. So with the security crisis response, you would then have an evaluation and analysis. So you'd all sit down and talk about what went well and what didn't go well, so that you can improve your processes and iterate on that. You'd generate a report, especially if there's resources, time resource, budget resource, put it aside for it, then you need to produce an artifact to justify the value of that. And it could be part of your obligation to report back to the board that you're meeting the requirement for your cybersecurity posture in your environment. If there are improvements that you all decided on through your review, then you actually need to implement them so they have a purpose, and then start scheduling some follow-up exercises so you don't lose touch.
Wonderful. For the final part of this session, we're going to talk about the key lessons and takeaways. All right, so the first key lesson is about collaboration and diversity being strengths. Everyone should know that having a diverse team with different perspectives will vastly improve your experience, not only in the security incident response, but also in a D&D campaign. You don't want a whole party worth of monks. You don't want a whole group worth of just analysts. You need a nice balanced team with different skill sets, different ideas, and different experiences to undertake either of these exercises. The second lesson is adaptability is essential. In security crisis responses, you need to be adaptable, right? You can't expect things to go the way you want. Similar in a D&D campaign, you can't expect things to be exactly the same, predictable. Neither of them would be worthwhile if they were predictable. The third lesson is that clear communication is key. Just as in a D&D campaign, you need to make sure all your players are on the same page, doing the same strategies and plans. You need to make sure that everyone knows their role, knows what they're doing in a security crisis response, and that they're well equipped if there was a real world example.
Yeah. Also, you want to have some empathy for the people conducting the activity with you, whether it's your teammates or maybe not the person attacking you, but point being, don't always assume everything is the way you see it. Try and understand why something else will be positioned differently. That will, reinforce point 1, 2, and 3 as well. So empathy is important. And that continuous learning leads to growth. The security crisis response exercise especially is a learning opportunity. So you get this safe space to break things and then hopefully learn from it.
And then on to the takeaways.
Yeah, so takeaway 1, the strategy and adaptation matters. So if you do have a strategy that you're trying to test or follow, do follow and then adapt your processes to adopt that strategy. A lot of the time, engineers kind of get caught up in technology. We love doing fun things. We love doing cool things. Do cool things that help your business. So if that's in your security program and you see an opportunity to implement something to help with your response, don't do it because it's cool, do it because it helps the business as well. Secondly, resilience is a common thread in everything that we do. Things can be really grim, especially if you are responding to a security exercise, or a real security incident. Has anyone heard about MGM in the States and their ransom? And their whole environment is gone. I did see this job advert on the Bird app where they wanted a Red Hat sysadmin prepared to work 10-hour days every day until the job is done. I don't know who would apply for that. 110 an hour is not bad. But point being, you'd have to be fairly resilient to be in that sort of recovery environment.
Yep. And then the third takeaway is the power of teamwork. You need to make sure that you're a good team. Ultimately, both D&D and in the security crisis response, if you don't work well together, it's not going to be a good game. It's not going to be a good exercise. The final takeaway is that imagination fuels innovation. So having a security crisis response that is well equipped for your organisation, having that sort of applicability at a deeper level is extremely important to make sure that when something goes down, you're well equipped to handle it.
And you don't want to have a boring D&D campaign, right?
No.
You've got to have a good imagination for it, yeah.
Absolutely. All right, that's the end of our presentation. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Victor.
Do we have any questions? No?
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.